What's up, wrestling fans? My name is Aaron and this is Wrestling by Wardridge. If you're new here, welcome to the channel, and if you're returning, it's bloody great to see you again. So I'm taking a short break just for a week from my under analysis videos whilst I catch my breath, and I thought I would do something a little bit different, especially after that all-out pay-per-view. What a show. So I know in my channel update I mentioned that I would resume my top matches of the week videos, but in all honesty I just haven't really got the time on my hands anymore to do those videos, so I'm going to be sticking with the under analysis videos going forward, as well as other videos along the side like today's video. But in this new two-part video I will be sharing my top 20 potential Forbidden Door matches between Impact, New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW, and in today's video I will be running through numbers 20 to 11. I've also given myself a couple of guidelines where I'm only allowed to pick a wrestler once, and that every match needs to be between 2 or more wrestlers from different companies. If you enjoyed this video though, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're on the way to 500 subscribers. Thank you so much for your support, guys, as always. Give the video a share, hit that like button and hit the notification bell to be notified when I release new videos on the channel. But let's get the ball rolling with number 20. So we're going to kick things off with a potential match between two absolute badasses, Tomohiro Ishii versus Eddie Kingston. I think these two can have a very entertaining and extremely physical matchup. It's known that Eddie Kingston looks up to Japanese legends such as Toshiaki Kawada and Mitsuharu Misawa, and Tomohiro Ishii is a legend in his own right, to be fair. He represents a challenge that I think Kingston would relish. We've already seen Ishii tangle with the likes of AEW star Jon Moxley in the G1 and more recently Impact's Moose. Both great matches in their own right. I honestly don't think this match would need much of a story going into it, as I think that it would be more than capable of telling an excellent in-ring story. So this next match might come as quite a surprise to some, or it might just be downright controversial. Orange Cassidy versus Sanada. First of all, I would love to see Orange Cassidy against any member of Los Ingobernables de Japón more than anyone else, because if anyone personifies their popular tranquilo phrase, it's Orange Cassidy. And I think that arguably the most laid-back member of LIJ, Sanada, would be the perfect opponent for Cassidy. Granted, Sanada isn't the most popular performer in New Japan Pro Wrestling, because of his slower style and a lack of emotion somewhat, but I personally enjoy some of his work. He's something different, and I think that his expressionless character could mesh incredibly well with Cassidy's shtick. Both men can certainly go in the ring when the pace picks up, and so I think it would be a fascinating match to watch. In regards to a slightly more fleshed out story, perhaps LIJ could find Cassidy's persona to be a mockery of the group, which results in Sanada being dispatched to take him out. So the next match will most likely come as another surprise, but it's time to give women's wrestling some love. Jordynne Grace versus Nyla Rose, and I think a match between these two performers could have all the potential in the world to be one of the best hoss fights in this Forbidden Door era. Neither woman is the finished article just yet, Nyla Rose less so, but I've seen enough from both women in their respective companies to predict a great match between the two. I think you could tell a simple story where Rose specifically targets the smaller women on the AEW roster, almost bullying these women to then boast about it, only to have Grace appear on AEW television to challenge Rose to pick on someone her own size. It's time to get some Impact women on AEW, damn it, because there's some great female talent on that roster, with Grace being one of the standouts. And speaking of hoss fights, another match which I don't think a lot of people would have considered, Miro versus Jeff Cobb, two physical specimens. Of course, Cobb has already appeared on AEW television against Jon Moxley, so it's certainly not out of the realms of possibility for the big man from the United Empire to show up again. I don't think there would need to be much of a story, to be honest, as I think the anticipation would be great regardless. Maybe Cobb could answer a TNT Open Challenge in the near future whilst Miro still holds the belt, or perhaps Miro could travel over to Japan, enter himself into the G1 tournament to face Cobb that way. I think it has been suggested that Miro would like to compete in New Japan one day, so a G1 appearance is a very likely possibility. Either way, I think a match between the two would be a magnificent slugfest. When I think of Raw wrestling talent, the following three performers come to mind: AEW's Pac, New Japan's Taiji Ishimori, and Impact's Trey Miguel. Three of the most intense and exciting wrestlers on their respective brands. Three men who could realistically have a great match with anyone, and I think a triple threat or a three-way dance is a mouth-watering prospect. In my opinion, there has only really been a small number of truly great triple threat matches. It's definitely not the easiest match to book, but I think these three talents have all the ingredients to produce an instant classic. Pac and Ishimori portray great heel characters, whilst Miguel has proven to be a legitimate babyface that fans will easily root for. So I think there could certainly be a compelling in-ring story. Maybe where Miguel is forced to fight against the odds when Pac and Ishimori team up on him. Pac and Ishimori could then quarrel, which allows time for Miguel to recover, leading to an exciting and fast-paced finish. Then coming in at number 15, the Young Bucks versus the Motor City Machine Guns. So I probably shouldn't have picked this match, as Alex Shelley isn't currently an active member of Impact's roster. However, I do believe he will eventually return sooner rather than later. So I thought, why not? Now, both of these teams have faced off before in Ring of Honor, but I think it's fair to say that both of these teams have matured and grown as performers over the years. Okay, maybe not in the case of the Young Bucks, but you know what I mean. Arguably two of the best and the most exciting tag teams on the planet today that I think would easily tear the house down. Love them or hate them, the Young Bucks' talent is hard to deny, and their character work has been absolutely brilliant since their heel turn on AEW, while Sabin and Shelley have both gone on their own single adventures throughout the years, but still proved to be better than ever in their most recent Impact run. Whether you add a stipulation to the match or not, there is no doubt in my mind that this match would deliver. Now, this next match is one that I would find very interesting if it ever happened. Tetsuya Naito versus Andrade El Idolo. Two sides of the same coin. I mean, both men have impeccable dress sense, but most importantly, both men are, or were, associated with the Los Ingobernables faction. Naito, of course, formed Japan's Los Ingobernables de Japón, but Andrade is actually one of the founding members of the original Los Ingobernables, formed in Mexican promotion CMLL under his former moniker La Sombra. I'm thinking a heel Andrade could perhaps appear in New Japan to disregard the legitimacy of Naito's offshoot group and subsequently mock it as a cheap imitation. I think Naito performs just as well as a babyface, so I could definitely see him refuting Andrade's claims and challenging him to a match so as to defend the validity of his group. If you wanted to spice things up even more with some faction warfare, it would be very cool to see Andrade bring in some of his old comrades to combat Naito's stablemates, perhaps Rush or La Bestia, who currently work in Ring of Honor, and I think it is inevitable that a match between these two would slap. So there was a match 4 years ago that a lot of people underestimated. At WWE's 2017 edition of SummerSlam, there was a fatal four-way match between Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar, four physically dominant competitors. And now, with the Forbidden Door wide open, there was a real possibility to recreate that magic again, but potentially do it better. And I think Impact and AEW have just the performers for such a match. Lance Archer versus Moose versus Wardlow versus Joe Doring. It might not be the most popular match on this list, but once I thought of it, it's a match that I definitely found exciting. Just four big meaty men slapping meat. Vince would love it. All four men have proven to be great in-ring workers, so I don't think that work rate would be an issue here, and I think there are a lot of components which could make for an enticing build. Moose is a fantastic promo. Eric Young could be an excellent mouthpiece for Joe Doring. Archer is competent on the stick himself, but he still has Jake Roberts in his corner, and we all know about his credentials. And then you could either have MJF or Tully Blanchard cut promos on behalf of Wardlow, or the big man could cut promos himself. One thing's for sure, it would be a car crash of a feud that I think would surprise a lot of people. Then next up at number 12, Malachi Black versus Shingo Takagi. Two of the toughest competitors in the game today. Two wrestlers who work a very stiff style, or strong style if you will, albeit slightly different from one another, and both wear kick-ass masks on the way to the ring. This might seem like quite a random match and more of a long shot than the other matches. It would probably be better to wait until Black's star power has risen even more so that he becomes more well known to international audiences, but it's a match that I would pay to see 100%. For my money, Shingo is one of the best wrestlers in the world today, and Black is definitely not far behind him, so there is no problem whatsoever in terms of work rate. However, I do think that there could be an interesting build to the match too. I would love to see some cryptic promos from Black in AEW, where he talks about vanquishing the Dragon. Perhaps Bryan Danielson could even act as a red herring of sorts, before Black eventually shows up on a New Japan show to attack Shingo after a match, thus making his real intentions clear. A hungry Malachi Black looking to prove himself against one of New Japan's fiercest competitors sounds quite appealing to me, and it's always an exciting time when a North American star shows up on New Japan soil. And then lastly for this video, at number 11, MJF versus Hiroshi Tanahashi, and I actually think that this match could happen relatively soon and in AEW. Coming off the back of his loss to Chris Jericho, I could see a frustrated MJF claim that regardless of his recent defeat, he still warrants a spotlight over these old-timers and that he is going to prove it. I would like to think the rumoured match between Jon Moxley and Hiroshi Tanahashi will still take place in the near future, and I think that after this match would be the perfect opportunity for MJF, with a little help from the Pinnacle of course, to strike and initiate a vicious assault on New Japan's ace. After all, if there is an active legend who is just as big as Chris Jericho and represents a similar sized scalp, it's Hiroshi Tanahashi. Hence an old school story could be told of the young challenger attempting to elevate his status even further at the expense of an established household name. MJF is an excellent throwback to a more traditional heel, and I think that him and his character suits these kind of stories to the ground. And for me, it would be a treat to see Tanahashi involved in a more westernized feud. MJF is still underrated as a worker in my eyes, and Tanahashi is still going as strong as ever. So I see no reason why a match between these two generational talents can't be any good. But that's the first half of my top 20 Forbidden Door matches. Of course, let me know what you think of these matches in the comment section down below. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my selections. Obviously, I've got 10 more coming in the next video, which hopefully I'll be dropping this weekend. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please remember to subscribe, hit that like button, give it a share across social media, and hit the notification bell to be notified when I release new videos and the second part of this video. I hope you all have great days, guys, and I shall see you all for the next one. Bye bye.